in the mountains, where the air was crisp and the world seemed to stand still, there was a monastery. It was a place of peace, a sanctuary for those seeking wisdom. At the heart of this monastery lived Master Tao, an old monk whose teachings were said to hold the answers to life's greatest questions. People would travel from far and wide just to hear his words. One morning, as the sun rose and painted the mountains in gold, a young man named Kai made his way up the rocky path to the monastery. He looked tired, his shoulders slouched under the weight of a bag. But even heavier was the burden in his heart. Kai was frustrated, lost, and unsure of his place in the world. After what felt like hours, he finally arrived and saw Master Tao sitting by a gentle stream, holding a small, cracked clay jar. Kai hesitated. Was his struggle worth the monk's time? But with a warm smile, Master Tao gestured for him to sit. Kai lowered himself onto the ground, his voice shaky as he began to speak. "Master," he said, "I feel broken. Everything I try falls apart. No matter how much effort I put in, I fail. I don't see the point in trying anymore if all I ever do is fail." His words hung in the air, heavy and raw. Master Tao didn't answer right away. Instead, he picked up the cracked jar beside him. Slowly, he dipped it into the stream, letting the water fill it. But as he lifted the jar, water began to drip through the cracks, forming small streams that flowed onto the ground. The monk held the jar up to Kai and asked, "What do you see?" Kai looked at the jar, confused. "I see water escaping," he said. "The jar is broken. It can't hold anything." His voice was firm, almost frustrated. Master Tao smiled gently. "Look again," he said. "The water may escape, but it doesn't vanish. Watch what happens." Kai stared as the water trickled down, soaking the soil beneath. To his surprise, tiny flowers began to bloom where the water had fallen. Their petals were vibrant, glowing in the sunlight. What seemed like a broken, useless jar had given life to the earth below. The monk continued, "This jar is not perfect, but it still has a purpose. Its cracks allow it to give life to the world around it. And so it is with us." He placed the jar down gently and looked at Kai, his eyes calm but piercing. In life, we all have cracks. We fail, we fall, we break. But those cracks don't make us useless. They allow us to grow, to give, and to make a difference. The key is not to focus on what you've lost, but on what you can give. Kai stared at the flowers, his mind racing. He thought about his own life, the times he had stumbled, the dreams that hadn't worked out. For so long, he had seen those moments as proof of his failure. But now he began to wonder, could his struggles have a purpose too? Silence fell between them, but it wasn't an uncomfortable silence. It was the kind of silence that allowed thoughts to settle, like leaves floating gently to the ground. Kai's gaze shifted to the stream, watching as the water continued to flow. In its steady rhythm, he found a sense of peace he hadn't felt in a long time. "Master," he finally said, "I think I understand. Even when I feel broken, I can still make an impact. I can still give something back." His voice was soft but filled with a new kind of strength. The monk nodded. "Exactly, Kai. Your cracks, your struggles, they make you human. They make you real. And they allow your light to shine in ways you might not even see. Remember, even broken jars can nourish the earth." Kai stood, feeling lighter than he had in years. He bowed deeply to Master Tao, gratitude shining in his eyes. "Thank you, Master," he said, his voice steady. As he walked down the mountain, he noticed the flowers blooming along the path. Their colors seemed brighter now, their beauty more meaningful. For the first time, Kai felt hopeful, not because his cracks were gone, but because he had learned to embrace them. Back at the stream, Master Tao sat alone, the cracked jar resting beside him. The water continued to drip through the cracks, nourishing the ground below. Flowers bloomed in its path, a quiet testament to the lesson he had shared. Life has a way of breaking us. We stumble, we fail, we fall. But it is in those cracks, those imperfections, that our greatest potential lies. Like the jar, we are not defined by our flaws, but by the beauty and purpose we create through them. So what are your cracks? The struggles, the setbacks, the times you thought you'd never get back up? They might just be the very things that make you extraordinary. Embrace them. Let your light shine through. and watch as the world around you begins to bloom.